Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's LCI event with our facilitators, Lara and Vicky. Thank you so much, Lara and Vicky, for making time to be here with us. So my screen is behind another screen. Much better now. Can anybody hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. All right. So welcome to today's webinar. The purpose of today's webinar, and this is to equip us with some information on hosting a successful LCI or MTM meeting. The LCI meetings and LCI meetings are one of the most important events of being a circular, and therefore as organizers or even just as a circular, knowing how to host this event successfully helps us make those informed decisions, taking in some key notes to ensure that it becomes fun and enjoyable. I will now hand over to Vicky and Lara to take us through this exciting 1 hour journey on learning how to host a successful event. Vicky?
Super. Thank you, Leisha. Yeah, as Leisha said, we're going to be online for about an hour today. Everybody that's on the call has got commitments in about an hour's time. So we will be kind of going through it at quite a pace. From Lara and I's point of view, our experiences in organising an MTM. So we're going to mainly focus on that today. Having said that, a lot of the principles for organising any large event are the same. So they will apply to if you're organising an LCI AGM. So we're going to start with planning your team and having a timeline and those kind of things. So I will start with that. The most important part of organising is actually having a really good team. So Lara will back me up on this. We had an amazing team for our MTM in Stratford. It was very small. There were just 4 of us that organised it, but it was made up of ladies with really good experience. So I'd been National Secretary for 2 years of GB&I. Lara was a past National President, and Fiona, who was our Treasurer, was also a past National President. And our 4th lady was a lady called Elle, who was local to the area. So she was our kind of woman on the ground that could go and visit the venue and check any things for us. You need to arrange your team quite early on because you need to be ready to have save the dates at the MTM or the LCI prior to the one you're organising. So at that point, you just need to be able to make sure that you know when it's going to be and where it's going to be so that you can issue save the dates. It's also good to get things together early because you will launch your bookings for the MTM. You'll book them at the AGM. Open booking, at the AGM. But also, particularly for the MTM, you need to work alongside your regional chair. It's really important. They run the actual meeting side of it. So you're creating the fun and the sisterhood of the weekend, but your regional chair will be running the actual formal part of the meeting. So it's really important that you work closely with them. As I've said before, we had a really small team, and I'm quite a firm believer that sometimes less is more. If you have a big team of people, you can end up with a lot of people that don't actually do very much. Think about the people that you invite to be part of the team, look at their experience, look at their skills, and then really use people in the best way possible. Again, I'm sure Lara will back me up. We didn't have to manage each other. We all knew exactly what our skill set was, and we just worked really, really easily together. So that was great for us. And again, as I said, have at least one person local to the venue. That's really important because you will be going back and forth over the course of the time when things change. Having roles within the committee, that's kind of up to you, and it will depend on what event you're organising. So whether it's an MTM or an LCI. For an LCI, it's bigger. You've got pre-tours, you've got a lot more going on. You will probably need more people on that team. But I would definitely make sure that you have those essentials of having somebody who's going to chair it for you, having a secretary, somebody who'll take minutes and do the admin, and particularly having a treasurer, because we will talk about it a bit later in the session today. But there are quite a few requirements regarding the budget and the costings and the financial reporting for these events that need to go back to LCI. So I think that's quite important. Lara, do you think there's anything I've missed on the team?
No, I think like Vicky was saying, it's really about having a strong team. If you've worked together before, it's obviously also a benefit because then you know how to work together. But yeah, I think from the start you will find out who is your chair because they'll sort of lead, and then people will fall into the right roles as you start planning.
Definitely. So the next part that's really important is your budget. Whilst there are guidelines in the LCI documents about the costing of events, I think for an MTM from memory, they recommend trying to keep it around the €220 mark. I don't know the last time that was revised. It wasn't revised while I was on the LCI board. So with the costs of things going up, you need to allow a little bit more possibly on that to make it realistic. But the main principle is it needs to be value for money. You want to encourage ladies to come, but you also need to be able to cover the costs of what you're doing. So it needs to be realistic. When you're looking at your venues, when you're looking at all the other things you want to add in, you need to look at several options to make sure that you pick the one that's going to work for you. We looked at key budget lines. You're obviously going to have your venue is going to be one of your biggest costs. One of the things that you must consider, and I will say this several times during this session, meetings should be free to attend. So when you're doing your budget, there will always be a venue cost, but that needs to be absorbed into your overall ticket price so that if you ever had ladies that just want to come to the meeting, they should be able to do so free of charge. And that applies to the LCI AGM as well. Both meetings as membership organizations should be free to attend. So those costs will exist, but you just need to absorb them into the rest of your budget. You will be looking at the cost for, AV, so your sound and your screens. If you have to cover any costs for anybody, so if you're going to cover cost for your organising committee, if you're going to look at subsidising the cost for the regional chair or for your LCI board members that are coming, then you need to consider that. Also, things like if you've got meals and budgeting for the pricing of any catering that you're including, transport, sightseeing, pre-tours, extra activities, decorations, gifts. There are so many elements that come into it. And we will, after the meeting through Leisha and the LCI board, we will share some of the things that we think you need to consider as part of an MTM budget. So things that you need to look at on your income. So that includes exchange rates if people are paying in different currencies. So although you advertise in euros, you may take payments in different currencies. But we will quite happily share a sort of sample budget of the things that we considered when we put ours together. Obviously, as part of that, you then need to use that budget to look at your ticket pricing and make it, again, realistic. You need to cover your costs. The ticket pricing alone should not really bring in a profit. When you're looking at setting that ticket price, you need to consider a realistic number of people, which for us in the Middle European region, we looked back at the last sort of 4 years. Nuremberg had quite a low attendance. Numbers wise, they had some issues with their deposit and venues and had to change that. Liège was massive the year before. We took an average so that we actually, I think our break-even budget was for 120 because we felt that that was actually realistic for people coming. In the end, we had more than that, so that was great. Where you end up having more people and you have more income, that money needs to be put back into the weekend. So that is giving extra things to your attendees, so that they really get value for money. That is not about trying to, whilst the profit is split between the ISP and the different funds, and it is good to have profit, you really should be looking at trying to break even so that you make it affordable for people to attend. The primary reason for all of these meetings is to get ladies, get our sisters together and spend time, meeting and socializing and bonding. So it does need to be affordable. There is the LCI loan that you can have when you're setting up these events. You can apply for these up to a year before your event, and you must repay them before the event starts. For the MTMs, this is an interest-free loan of €1,000. And for the LCI AGM, it's an interest-free loan of €6,000. That's really helpful depending on how you're setting it up. If you haven't got a national budget that or a national account that you can borrow from, and you're setting it up as a completely independent committee, then you will need money to pay your deposits to secure the venues. So the loans are really useful for that. And that's what we use the LCI loan for our MTM, was to secure our venue early on. Also consider exchange rate fluctuations and any inflation, rates, because they will affect what you're paying for the things that you've agreed. And if you're agreeing things 12, 18 months in advance, then just allow a little bit of flexibility in your costings for things like that. The online payment systems, if you can manage them, are really useful depending on how you're going to run your bookings. But if it is on a website and people can book in and pay at the same time, that will make life easier for you. We actually had, when we launched at the AGM, people could pay a €50 deposit to secure their place and then pay the balance. We would have liked to have had even more installment options, and we didn't manage to arrange it in time. But I think now, with so many events happening in your own countries and around the world, and the cost of those events, if you can offer a payment plan where people can pay over 6 months and you still get all of your funds in time to pay your suppliers, then that will help with attendance rates. You will get more ladies coming if they can spend €30 a month rather than having to pay out 300 in one go, that kind of thing. It will make a difference. Also think about your contracts. So when you're contracting with the venue or with any of your other suppliers, again, think about your minimum numbers and make sure that they're realistic. Don't think that, don't think you're going to have 300 people coming if you might only have 150. It is better to plan for that 150 and end up with twice as much, which is wonderful. But then you can use that extra income to subsidize the event and make it even better and have extras that will make the weekend really memorable. And I think my final point on the budget is just remember that you'll have your fixed costs and your variable costs. So your fixed costs will be things like the venue, your meeting room, certain, a band, entertainment, things that are they're going to cost you the same no matter how many people you have. You'll also have your variable costs, which will be things like your meal prices that you'll only be paying for the number of people that you have. So take those into account on your budgeting, and make sure that those fixed costs are split between your minimum number of people. And that way, that you will have at least enough income to cover those essentials. As I say, we'll be taking questions at the end of the session, but we will share our budget document that will just show the things that we considered and how we came up with our ticket pricing, in case that helps people. Again, for the LCI AGM, it's the principle is exactly the same, but you do have the extras of having the pre-tour and having the counsellors dinner. So you have different package rates depending on how many days people are doing. But the overall principle will be the same.
One thing I would just add on is online payment options. Remember that some of them charge, so make sure that you also include that in the cost of the ticket, so that you're not bearing the cost and the cost is included in the price.
Yeah, so that's like the transaction fee. So the system we used for MTM was Stripe, and they charge you a percentage of each transaction plus like a 20-cent payment per transaction as well. So just again, yeah, you're right, Lara, include that in your budget so that you're not out of pocket on actually just taking the payments. So I'm going to hand over to Lara now, and she's going to talk to you about the actual venue items.
Yeah, so I'm going to start with obviously the location. So I think first of all, you want to get as many ladies there as possible. So you need to make it easy to get there. And to do that is all the transport links. So is it a direct airport nearby? Is there transport links by train? Can people easily drive there? Obviously, if within Europe, we know that a lot of ladies will drive to locations. So I think it's a nice thing that they can do a little car tour and on their journey to wherever they're going to. But we've also, if you're looking at an LCI, you also need to think, is it a main town and can people easily get there? Or if they can get to a airport and then have other transport links to it. Because I think if you put it too far out and not easily accessible, that's where you will start losing ladies. Will just look at it and go, it's too hard to get there, so I'm just not going to bother. The other thing to then look at is accommodation. So when we did the LCI MTM, we looked at the main hotel that people could stay at. When you're looking at accommodation, this is part of your contract as well, is some hotels would allow you to secure some rooms at a discount rate. Those rooms, if they're not all sold, will need to be released. So you need to make sure that, yes, it's great to have some rooms at the location where you're hosting the a venue, etc. But there has to be other hotels nearby that obviously, if people don't want to spend as much as the hotel that everything's happening at, they can stay at another hotel nearby. But remember the allocation, because most hotels, if you are doing a big venue there, they will give you discount rates to those rooms, but those discount rates will only be for a certain time, and then they will obviously charge you for those rooms if you don't sell them, if you don't release them in time. So that's one thing to think about. Then obviously, if people aren't staying at that location, or if you have multiple locations for your activities throughout the weekend, you need to look at safety. Can people walk there? Is there easily to get a taxi? Is it safe for them to use local transport? Again, if it's far away, can we put on coaches? Can we put on taxis for those ladies when they leave a venue late at night? So it's additional costs that potentially need to be included in the whole event. Facilities. So the main thing is obviously there'll be either an AGM or a business meeting happening at any of these events that we put on. So we need to look at those meeting facilities that the hotel offers, or a different venue nearby that offers it. So you need to look at AV options, accessibility for anybody that can't, obviously if it's on a second floor, have they got a lift and it's easily accessible for anybody that has any disabilities. No smoking indoors. So obviously, again, in some countries you might be able to smoke indoors, but in some, obviously it's definitely a no-no. So is there outdoor facilities? But when it comes to AV, what AV facilities are they offering you? Do you need to then get some outsource the AV, because what the hotel is offering is very basic and you need additional cost for that AV to come in? So when we put on our AGM in GBNI, we hosted it in a hotel where their AV was very basic, and we got somebody external to come and do an AV. Again, that's additional cost that you need to then build into your budget. Again, then social events. I think Vicky's already touched on it. If you're having a social event, what facilities are there? Do you need to book a separate band? Does a hotel have a DJ, a resident DJ that will play on the night? Things like that, that all have to be considered and potentially are additional costs to the event. Again, pre-tours. Additional opportunities where potentially you can make some money that can then go back into the event. So you obviously, every country, when people travel to a different country, they would want to be going and visit the local culture, because again, you're going there to meet loads of lovely ladies and having loads of parties and seeing all your friends. But if you're traveling really far, you also want to see some of the local culture. So that's when it comes to, is there sightseeing tours, pre-tours that that you can book into. Even for an MTM, even if it's only for a short weekend, not everybody will want to go to the business meeting, and they might want to go, actually, I'm here for a weekend and I haven't got a job to do, which I won't do in Romania, which will be really lovely. And you actually want to go and see some of the local culture. So even if an MTM, if you can put on a small sightseeing tour throughout the day while everybody's at the business meeting, you just want to see a bit of the culture. And if you can see as much of the culture, if it's on a bus, anywhere, that would be great. So these are the additional opportunities that we're looking at. Also, the service project. Is there any way of raising some money for the service project? You could have a raffle on the day to, again, raise some additional funds for the ISP project. But the main thing is value for money. I think that's the key to any event that we put on for LCI. People are traveling anyway, so yes, we are putting on a event, and for instance, MTM is €220 approximately, but those ladies are also traveling to that MTM, so they've got additional costs for travel and an additional cost of accommodation. So you might be looking at an amazing venue, like we looked at Edinburgh for ours, but again, very expensive. So you want the ladies from your own country to come and support. So again, is it accessible for them? Is it cheap enough for them to travel to that location and it's not additional cost? And then look at the cost of that city, because if you go for a main city, a lot of the time it's going to be very expensive. A smaller town on the outskirts will be a lot cheaper. You can go into the main hotel in the main airport, sorry, and then maybe it's a 20-minute taxi ride. You see, that's accessible to me and it would reduce the cost dramatically. So it's all those things to look at, make it a value for money so that ladies will go, yes, that's great, I want to come. Don't price it out for some ladies say, I can't afford to go, but I would love to go, but I can't afford to go because the flight tickets, for instance, are €400-500, and then you've got another €400-500 on top of that for the event. So these are all the things that you should be thinking of when you're looking at a venue for an event and the location. Transport planning is the next thing. So a lot of time, if your venue isn't close to a airport or a train station, is potentially putting on transport for those ladies. So there's coach options. A lot of ladies might decide that they actually want to do the journey all together and all get on a train or a bus together, but give them the option. So obviously if they want to have a transfer option, like when you go on holiday, you can either obviously say, yes, I want the additional transport, or no, we'll make our own way. Give those ladies that option, that there is something for those ones that maybe are traveling on their own and they wouldn't want to get on a train or a bus on their own. At least that transport option is there for them. Oh, have I lost you? No, sorry, my Teams went up on the back at the same time as started. Group transport. Again, is there options for groups to book a taxi for or a minibus for them, all to come from the airport directly to the venue? And the main thing is to communicate as much of this information up front to the ladies traveling, because as much of information they've got in advance, it makes it easier for them to book. So if there's multiple airports that you can travel into, tell them how far it is. So when we did our MTM video, we actually showed how far away we were from the airport, how far away we were from the train station. So it's easily visible to those ladies if they're traveling into, knowing exactly how long it's going to take them to get to those places. Communication, you can do that via obviously a launch video. Then you have either a Facebook group or even a website. Just put all that information all in one place, accessible for those ladies. And I think that's me done, and I'm going to pass over to Vicky.
Brilliant. Thanks, Lara. Yeah, and the other place to share your information about any element of your LCI AGM or MTM is on Circular World. as well. So that's another great place that you can share information. You can do mailings through that as well to keep people informed and updated. So so the program for your event, depending on what it is, like I said, we're going to focus a bit more on the MTM, but I will cover a little bit about the LCI AGM. For an MTM, it is usual that you have a welcome party on the Friday night. You have tours that are optional on the Saturday. You can have them in the morning for non-councillors. You can have them in the afternoon for councillors and non-councillors. Obviously, you will be having your MTM meeting on the Saturday morning. And then you'll have either a gala or some sort of dinner or a second party on the Saturday night. You can have a farewell breakfast on the Sunday if you wish, and you can always add in extra things on the Sunday if people are staying. For an LCI AGM, it's slightly different because we're actually there for a little bit longer. You will normally have the councillors' dinner on the Wednesday. We would have the welcome party and the Nations Parade the following day, with council meeting 4 and the home parties, then your AGM and a gala dinner, and obviously your first council meeting of the new year before you leave to come home. So there are more elements to consider with that. You need to think about the councillors' meetings for an AGM are much smaller than the actual LCI AGM, so they're probably going to be in different venues. But I would imagine you would be able to use the same venue for the 2 council meetings. Again, if you're contracting with the hotel, the more things that you can do in one venue, the better your bargaining power is on the pricing. So it's always the more things you can do in one place, the better the deal that they'll give you, because they know that they've got you tied in and they know they've got your money. It also makes it easier for your delegates that are traveling. Actually, once they're there, the less they have to do to get to other places, the easier it is for them. So looking at the program, it's making sure that you have a bit of a balance between the business, which is one of the main reasons that we host the MTMs, but also in a service element, as Lara's already said, whether that's a fundraiser, whether it's a raffle or a tombola, or whether it's just about information. Sometimes it's about just educating around the national service project of the country that's hosting the MTM. But it's also important to have fun and to make sure that there is free time. So it is usual that your MTM meeting will start anywhere between 9 and 10 in the morning, and you would normally finish at lunchtime. So that is, again, where you will work really closely with your regional chair, because they will be working with LCI on the basic content of the meeting. The regional chair will then add their own regional elements to that meeting, and they will know how long they need to make that meeting work, whether that's going to be a short group meeting and then lots of breakout sessions for the different councillors, or whether it's going to be a longer full meeting. The LCI board requirements for the LCI AGM, you will work really closely with the international board. It is usual that they will come and visit your venue prior to the AGM, so they will actually come and do a physical, maybe not all of the board, but they will come and do a physical visit of your AGM venues and all of the different party venues, just so that they know what to expect. It helps them to plan the smaller parts of the meeting. With the regional chairs, it's less likely that they'll be able to come and visit your venue before an MTM. But what we did with Barbara is we did a video tour. So we actually kind of like shared. We were in touch with her for the whole time from even before we booked the venue. But once we did a video tour so that we could show her around, so she knew what to expect. I would also say be prepared to be up late the night before the MTM or the AGM, whichever you're planning, because you do need to really help the LCI representatives to be ready for that meeting. That is also part of your role. So in Stratford, getting the AV, getting everything working for Barbara, we were doing that Friday night after our welcome party. We went back to the hotel and we made sure everything was up and running, so that actually we had no issues at the meeting on the Saturday. Everything went really smoothly, but it is worth putting that time and effort in. And the same goes for the AGM. The LCI board members will go and visit the AGM venue prior to the AGM, and they will do testing. They will make sure that their AV works. So it's allowing time and making sure your venue know that you're going to go in and do that during the Wednesday and Thursday afternoons. It's really important. It's one of the big things that kind of gets forgotten about, but it does need to be put into that time, and you need to have access to those venues to be able to do that. Obviously, for the MTMs, don't forget that we now have the half-year reports from the countries. So again, it's allowing time for that in the planning of the meeting, but also making sure that if they are videos and everything else, this is mainly for the regional chair to coordinate. They need to be making sure they've got all of those reports in, but it is making sure that if they are videos, if they're presentations, however they're going to be done, that you've got the AV, you've got the facilities for those to actually be presented. I mean, we say networking activities, really the whole weekend is a chance for networking. So that takes place whether you're in the meeting, whether you're in the bar, whether you're on a bus going somewhere. That is the whole point of an LCI meeting at any level. It's about being face to face. It's about getting to know the other members in our international association and about learning from each other. So yeah, I think my main point is work closely with the regional chairs and LCI. You're putting the event on together, so work together. It's really important, and I think the more that you communicate with that, actually, the easier your event will run. So that's our advice, really. Lara, anything else on the program for the weekend?
No, covered it all.
Cool. So I'm going to pass back to Lara. She's going to talk to you a bit about like goodie bags and presents and gifts and that side of it.
So yeah, so again, your budget. We go back to budget again. Not everybody expects a goodie bag, but it's nice to have something to remember the country you've been to. So it's not all about the costs. Think about the value and the memory that they can bring to that person. When you're looking at the costs, again, make sure you build it into the budget. The budget might just be something basic. So when we did the MTM, we made sure that we were going to include a pin of the logo as part of the gift. Then obviously, as more money was coming in and we had more people book in and we knew that we hit our break even, that's when you start adding a few more things into it. Because again, you want to show people they're actually getting value for their money coming to a event. So when you're looking at the content, think about small. Potentially people are traveling on a plane. So again, they will have weight restrictions. And also, if they've only got hand luggage, they might not be able to take certain liquid sizes. So again, you've got to think of all these things, unless they drink them before they leave, but then it's not something that they can take back with them as a souvenir. So maybe something small from the location, could be a small magnet, anything like that. We also then included in the goodie bags, but it was also part of the welcome pack, was the lanyards, which had all the itinerary on for the weekend. So people knew where they had to be, at what time, what location. So again, those are useful things to have. I know that in past for LCI, we've not brought our own lanyards. We've obviously brought our own so that we can reuse and sustainability. But always having the detail on there, having your contact details on there, if you get lost, who to contact, all those little things, having them on a little card that that the person can have with them is really, really useful. Think for snacks or drinks from the region. Again, when we did MTM, we had local cookies that, again, you'll eat before you travel, so it's not a bad thing. But I know that when we went to Belgium, we had the waffles, so you could eat them before or you could take them home. So they're a small gift that you can either eat because, again, you're in a hotel room, you're hungry, you want a snack, things like that are very useful to that person. Again, as I mentioned before, travel size items so that they're easy to travel whatever way that person has come. Look at pins. I think in LCI and in the whole Roundtable family, pins or coins are again becoming very popular, are a huge thing, and it's a memory. You look at a pin, you look at your pin board and you go, oh, I remember that, I got that from here, I got that from there. So it's really lovely to have a pin. So if you can build that into your cost and into your budget, that everybody gets one, then that's an ideal small gift. Look at sponsors. Is there somewhere local to yourself that would sponsor a gift with their advertising on, with their brand on there? So it's advertising. That's again something useful that then it's not additional cost, but it's something that you can put into a goodie bag, and it just fills that goodie bag, and it feels like they're getting more value for money. Look at LCI materials, potentially badges, meeting info, etc. Having all that in a welcome bag is just useful, and they know where to go and have it straight away rather than having to look for it. Another thing that we had in our welcome packs was like a small treasure hunt. So again, it's not additional cost. You can just print them up and then just say to people, while you're walking around the town, go looking for this, go looking for that. Gets people out and about to look around at the local culture, but also it gives them something fun to do. And everybody's always up for a challenge, especially if there's a prize at the end of it. Avoid breakable items. I didn't think of this. Again, it's not just for yourself when you're doing the welcome packs that potentially they're going to break. Again, it's also for the travel purposes, and look at sustainability options as much as possible. So our welcome bags were small little bags that again could be used as makeup bags, can be reused, anything useful like that. I think a lot of LCI AGMs give the big bags full of stuff, which again, the bags are really useful. You can reuse them when you go shopping. You're advertising LCI, you're advertising Lady Circle. So anything with branding of Lady Circle on, it's amazing because those ladies will be walking around the town where the AGM or LCI MTM is happening. So it's advertising and people will go, oh, what's that? Oh, what's all this about? And again, it gets people talking about our amazing association and spreading the word. I think that's it. Over to you.
Lovely. Thanks, Lara. Yeah, so the final part of our session is about the key regulations and LCI expectations. So I would say the boring bit, but actually it's probably the fundamental essential bit. For an AGM, as you will probably know, if you are bidding for hosting the LCI AGM, then you submit your budget as part of your application. So that will be looked at. Your costings, your estimated costings will be looked at by the LCI board before you present or before it's presented at an AGM for voting. For an MTM, it's not quite the same. You don't need to present a pre-budget. Having said that, if you have one and you want somebody to check it, then I'm sure that the LCI treasurer would be more than happy to glance over it and just check that you are on the right path. The MTMs are done within the region alphabetically, so you usually know when it's going to be your turn coming up. If for any reason you can't do it, then you can always ask LCI to push it back and swap you around. So don't get scared if you think that you're not ready for it, but you'd still like to do it. Maybe ask them to just amend the rotation so that you can still have your turn. The venue for the LCI AGM must be board approved, and that is done as part of that application process. So when it comes in, they'll be looking at your application before it's submitted to council to vote on it. For the MTM, I think it's more important that you're liaising with your regional chair. So it needs to be, they know what they want to achieve from the meeting. They need to know that the space that you're providing is going to work for what they want to do. So definitely have a really close relationship with your regional chair. All of our LCI meeting events must be virtually accessible. So you must have good network. You must have good Wi-Fi. You need to be prepared to be able to live stream it to, your regional group or to the LCI page on social media. When we did the MTM in Stratford, we actually just used the amazing Kaylee, who is our national media officer. And she was brilliant. It's what she does for all of our national meetings. So all we had to do was give her access to the Middle European Facebook, and she set everything else up for us, and she got it running. So that was something that for us was quite easy, wasn't it, Lara? We just had to make sure it was all there. We didn't have to do very much. She was incredible.
Everyone just needs a Kaylee.
Yeah, everyone needs a Kaylee. But again, you know, she wasn't part of the.
Oh, have we lost Vicky?
But you know, she's part of the national board. Just, you know, join in and be part of it, and they don't have to officially be on the committee. Again, we've said several times about including a service element that ties into LCI values. So it's entirely up to you how you include that in your event. But it is definitely should always be part of the fundamental principles of LCI. It is expected that you will have space for LCI pins and merchandise to be sold. Again, for an MTM, your regional chair will know what merchandise they have to bring with them. You may also have requests from other countries to have a small sales table. I would fully support that if you have got room. We all love buying from each other's associations and having Lady Circle branded items. So I don't see any problem with that, as long as it doesn't impact too much on the service element of your event that you're running anyway. Again, all prices need to be listed in euros. So although they have to be advertised in euros, I will make the point that that does not mean you need to take payment in euros. So if you are hosting and it is easier for ladies in your country to pay in your local currency, as long as they are paying the equivalent price, then that is fine for them to pay you in local currency. I think there's sometimes been confusion about that. And if you're a non-euro country, it means that your members could end up paying more by paying it in euros, and you're losing out money like we would have done on an exchange rate. So for the MTM that we hosted, we had a euro price, we had an equivalent sterling price, and the GB&I ladies paid us in sterling. And that's it. That was better for us because there were no fees. And it was better for them because, again, there was no exchange rate, no transaction fee, no additional transaction fee. And then the big one is it doesn't all finish as soon as you leave on the Sunday morning. So it's really important. You do need to provide a financial report on your MTM by the 10th of June. So that is a summary of your budget. It is basically your cash flow, your profit and loss. You need to show all of the money that came in, how it was spent, how it was broken down, what you've been left with. And then that is then split as per the rules and guidelines as they were voted on in Casablanca last year. And that is so that the deadline of the 10th of June is because all of the other financial reports are into LCI by then. And that is so that they can go to the Finance Review Committee.
Oh, we lost Becky.
Yeah.
Am I back?
Yeah, you're back now. I can hear you. I can't see you.
Sorry, I lost it. I don't know what you missed or anything, but it was mainly about making sure that financial report is completed by the 10th of June, because it needs to be looked at by the Financial Review Committee alongside all of the other financial elements of LCI, so that they are ready to present at the AGM. So please don't delay, because if you don't get it in time, that holds up everything for the LCI treasurer and the financial reporting. So it's really important to get that done. And yeah, basically look at the rules and guidelines. So I'm not a circular anymore. I don't have access to Circular World. But the copy of the rules and guidelines the last copy that I have, the LCI, organizing an LCI is from page 42 onwards, and an MTM is from page 62 onwards. But they will still be in there. Look at those rules and guidelines. They provide an awful lot of insight into the things you need to cover, the things you need to consider, and what is expected of those events. If anything isn't clear, you can contact your regional chair, you can contact the LCI board, and they will step through it with you. You know, generally, ladies, if you're going to be putting yourselves forward for organising an AGM or an MTM, you will have done this in your own country. You will have been part of hosting national events. So I'm sure that pretty much everything that Lara and I have shared with you today it's what you've done before. It's, you know what you're doing. and that's why you're volunteering if you're stepping up to do an LCI event. So from our point of view, fantastic for doing it, and good luck with whatever event you put yourselves forward for.
Thank you, Vicky, for that. Before we open for Q&A, a quick Q&A, we won't take long with Q&As because we want to allow Vicky and Lara have personal just to attend to. One of the things, though, as we move on to Q&A, was I wanted to add that it's really important that when you choose to host an event, obviously there would always be the person who say, I would like to host an LCI event. It can be an MTM or LCI. And that person, when they express the interest and they apply through Circular World as the convener, it's really good if they have some kind of experience. And if they don't, let them consult as much as they can, because we've had situations where countries, especially with MTMs, being that they're automated, when the next country comes in, you find there's little experience in that country to manage that. So let that country that is hosting next, especially with midterm meetings, understand the rules and guidelines. And if not, being that some countries, English is not their first language, let them consult the board and the regional chair. For LCI events like the AGM itself, we know that there's always a convener who applies, and that convener becomes the responsible contact person between themselves and the international board. Now, that person also has to be available as often as she's needed, available to answer Q&As, because there'll be a lot of questions. So when you dedicate yourself to be that person who wants to apply for an MTM, please be available to answer questions, because it becomes frustrating for the international board, and then it also becomes frustrating for the membership at large. And most importantly, the burden now becomes a country burden when a person that applied is no longer being responsive.
Yeah, I fully agree with Lisa. The planning you can do at your own pace, but once you launch and once you open bookings, and I know Lara will agree that you get an awful lot of questions. So as much information as you share, there will always be something you haven't thought about, or something that somebody struggles to understand about the event. So within the WhatsApp groups and on the email, you will have a lot of questions that come in. People really, really appreciate when you respond quickly. And it makes the whole experience for them much more enjoyable. So just be prepared for that side of it, and that does not finish until the actual event is over. So
yeah. And you mentioned something about value for money. And when it comes to post-tour and pre-tours, it feels really nice when a circular is part of that journey. Not a requirement, but when a circular is part of a pre-tours or somebody who understands who we are, it helps them interact better, give our delegates a better experience. So when you opt to host these events, do try to do that. And obviously there's the biggest issue of home parties, which are one of the most amazing experiences when it comes to LCI AGMs. In countries where you can home host, extend the invitation to the entire Roundtable family. Agora, Tangent, and Fortiwana or Roundtable would be able to give their homes to help you host the home hosting. If not, you can do it the Cape Town way. We had so much fun in Cape Town. It was parties around, and it still works, but basically do ask for help and make it work. Since we've spoken so much, and I think Lara and Vicky would like to get some feedback from you ladies, can we have any question as we move on to close? Anybody?
Or maybe we did such a good job there's no questions. That's okay too.
I mean, know, right?
as we've said, we will happily share the notes that we've made for today with the things that need to be considered, and we can expand on those a bit more with the LCI AGM elements. As we say, that is not the experience that Lara and we don't have first-hand experience of planning for an AGM, but we have attended quite a few. So we can put some extra guidance in around that, and we're more than happy to share the budget. I think from our point of view, probably the budget is one of the biggest elements that you've got to get right. Oh, Rihanna, hi.
Hi, ladies. How are you?
Good, you?
Good, good. It's not a question, more of a comment. I know that LCI Morocco had an app where they posted everything and they said they will make it available for other ladies. So, like I said, it's more of a comment to keep that in mind that Morocco is willing to share that same platform for other functions.
Yeah, and I think they have for Brasov. But I do remember seeing in the chat last year that there were already people that they were linking in with that app because it was brilliant, wasn't it? Having everything all in one place.
Absolutely. And you could ask questions and everything. It was brilliant.
Yeah, yeah.
And I would also say is, if reach out to the country that hosted an MTM previously to you. Obviously, Luxembourg is next for us. But, if you need any help, just reach out to another country that has hosted an MTM. We're all here. We're all here to help. And we'll be happy to help any country.
Yeah.
We have some comments from Sekwa. It says no question, rather a thank you. The bit on the meeting being free is a good insight, some free time. The meeting itself being free is a good insight. And the next one is, from Chintu says, very insightful, sharing, and can be applied to local and country AGMs. Thank you.
Yeah, that's what me and Vicky did. We did an MTM and then we went on and done an AGM and GBNI as well. So, and then that's the thing. What's the next thing? Vicky can't join me. I have to wait now until we can both go to Tangent together and go and do a few events then, can't we, Vicky?
Well, yeah, we'll just take on the world. It's fine. Like I say, if you have the right people, these things are actually really easy and really enjoyable. And our MTM experience was amazing, wasn't it, Lara? We really had the balance of really being involved but having fun while we did it. I don't think I stopped smiling the whole weekend in Stratford. I was really proud of what we'd achieved. And we really had fun, and the feedback from our attendees was great. And I think one of the things that I would say definitely don't forget is that the town or the city that you live in, that to you is just normal and like it's what you see every day. For people visiting your countries, it is a completely new experience. And what's lovely is that you will see the place that you live in and that you love through completely new eyes when other people come and share it with you. So when you're looking at your venues, there's no place that wouldn't work. It's the people and the passion behind the event that make these things successful. So that, yeah, just remember that.
Thank you, Vicky. The last comment we have comes from Kimberly from Belgium. She says, thanks, ladies. Your explanation was fantastic. Lots of hearts.
Super. Thanks, lady.
I guess that brings us to an end. We end 7 minutes early, which is really good. Ladies, please feel free. Feel free to ask for any more information and we'll share them with Vicky. Vicky, would you give us the closing remarks? I'll hand over back to you.
Well, just to say thank you to Lara for giving up your time today, and to Mariska for running the IT. That's amazing. Leisha, have a safe trip back from the US. Hope you have very safe travels. And to all the ladies that have joined us this afternoon, thank you for taking the time. And if you ever need any information or guidance, get in touch with Lara and myself or any of the regional chairs or the international board. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And hopefully see some of you in Brasov.
Yay.
Yes.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you, Risha. Thank you, ladies.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.